Don, I've never interviewed. I mean, we've interviewed your sister, good friends. I've never interviewed you with someone who has a relationship with you like that.
Yeah, we had my very dear friend Moxie, Marjorie Sokoloff, on, and it was amazing. She and I have been creative partners for almost 20 years now, and it's one of the greatest relationships I've ever had, and it was so special to have her as a guest this evening.
It was a learning experience for me. I mean, learning about the things you two have been through. Of course, she has her own story as well. I was just blown away and really learned a lot of insight into the world of theater.
Yeah, I mean, we spent so much time learning about each other and learning about the stuff that makes us stronger as artists, and it was great to have a chance to kind of revisit some of that stuff and learn a few things that I didn't know necessarily about her past, and things that we could expand on in a greater way.
Yeah, man. I always love in these podcasts learning about you, and I learned a lot about two people who are passionate and driven and creative and put on shows that people will never forget. So this was a pleasure.
Well, let's not delay any further, and let's get right to it. Ladies and gentlemen, Moxie Sokoloff. Sam.
What's your name again?
Don.
Don! Are you Don Swenson?
I have been called worse.
I am lucky to be in the presence of Don Swenson, and you have brought someone who apparently knows you better than your own sister.
Yeah, I have brought my dear friend, my sister from another mister, Moxie Sokoloff.
That's
Moxie! Moxie, I got to say that, every week I'm like, who are we bringing on? I'll maybe suggest someone. Don says and then he brings someone on, and I read the resume. I'm like, how do I not know this person? This person sounds incredible.
Oh, that's kind. Thank you.
I mean, it's very true. I mean, I was like, hey, Don, do you have any information on her? 'Cause, I can't find her on Facebook. And he goes on to cut and paste.
You did?
I took what you sent over to me, and I sent that over to
cleaned it up a little
Sam.
bit, sparked it up a little bit. It wasn't good enough for you?
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh my gosh. And from a person like me who is a professional educator, I do a summer camp. I've put on a lot of shows, game shows, theater-esque things. I was looking at your resume. I was like, holy cow, how do I not know this girl? She's incredible.
Well, what you're doing is the hard stuff. That's the
Is
down
that right?
and the, oh yeah. You're in the pit. That's when the love is down there.
Well, no doubt,
Yeah.
but it seems like you're in the heart of it as well, and I definitely want to find out all about it.
Okay.
Yeah, let's get in there. So I've known Moxie since a long time ago. At least probably 2006 is probably around when we became friends. 2006, 2007.
Yeah, I counted it around almost 20 years.
Yeah. And it was sort of by happenstance. I had been in a show that a friend dragged me into because they were down guys, right?
You were performing?
I was performing.
Okay.
So it was a production of Barnum at Cumberland County College, and I show up and I audition. I wound up playing 6 different roles.
Did you even audition?
What?
I don't think you auditioned. I think
No? 'Cause it was Tech Week.
I was so low guys that I said, I need some guys. We got to do this. And someone brought you in, and it was all good. And your kids were there. Wasn't Jack or Robbie doing it with you?
No, it was just me.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure, because Stacy brought me in on that.
I really thought the kids
You must be
showed up.
really low. You had him for 6 parts? 6
Yeah,
parts? That was
well,
not an insult
yeah.
on Don. I know that was.
No, he pulled me out of the fire.
So it
Yeah.
was, and then
That's what he
And then,
does.
but
That's what he does.
there's a punchline to this story.
what the punchline?
The punchline to the story is, I became the head of the theater department
yeah.
at Camden County College, and we were doing a production of Ragtime, and I was in the midst of auditions, and he walked in the door, and I had
on his horse.
no horse was involved.
Just a night.
And I had no idea who he was.
Yeah,
I looked on the resume, and I saw a show that I directed, and I was like, I directed that. You were in that? And he was like, yep.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't even remember who you were.
How memorable as the performance was.
We only spent about 4 days together.
And I was like, you, move left. Faster, funnier.
Learn the dance.
A lot going on, clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so so wound up their technical director had just left.
Yes.
And they got a new technical director who was had some health issues and needed some help with some of that. And I sort of shyly raised my hand and said, "That's what I went to school for." And
my eyes just went.
So it wound up being I'd rehearse. And then I'd stay later, and I'd build scenery, and
then you started crashing at my then husband's in our house.
Yeah, and it's just like, I don't know. It was
love, is what it was. It was
like
a true
we
love.
We really got each other,
and always have.
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's I think what's been really nice about not only our professional but our personal relationship is that we're very honest with each other.
Oh yeah,
very honest with each other, and I think that's the rock on which our friendship is built.
Wow.
And that was born out of true respect.
Yeah.
So what can I say to Don to get him to be honest with me?
About what?
He's just always making me feel like this podcast is good, and I'm like, dude.
I don't think Don lies like that. I think he probably is being honest with you.
Okay.
I think he truly is.
Okay.
I think he might at times, he's much kinder. Don's a kinder person
He's a good
than I
soul.
am. Much kinder than I am, much more patient than I am. I mean, I'll go for the jugular, and Don will go in. We have so many stories exemplifying that.
Yeah, good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, always the bad cop, always the good cop.
He is. He's a good cop. I mean, I love this dude, and just hearing about your relationship, I'm jealous now.
Aw.
I mean, I love this dude, but I'm 5 years strong of loving this this gentleman right here.
We will build our own rock.
I'm sure you will.
And it will be stronger than yours.
And I will fight you to the death.
Bring it on.
guys, peace.
So Moxie, I'm saying that right because
Yes.
I've been preparing for Marjorie all day, but we are going to call you Moxie. Moxie, is most of your work done in children's theater? Is that your...
I used to. I was a specialist in theater for young audiences. I kind of cut my teeth on that when I was a director. It was the first way I could get professional gigs. It's much easier to land a job as a director directing theater for young audiences because in the caste system of theater, it's way down at the bottom, which is really unfortunate, but really true. And then I became a specialist in that. I'm a playwright, so I've written a lot of pieces that have been done a lot. But as that kind of grew, I had the opportunity to do a lot of different kinds of work from classics and Shakespeare and musicals and to my favorite, which is really kind of gritty, esoteric, weird stuff, which I feel is like my best stuff.
I am excited to talk about that. I feel like we should stay at the beginning, though, and then get to that. I'm really excited to talk about that. Don knows me. I love that kind of stuff. So when you first started out, like, were you right away starting to direct? Were you starting to...
No, I was an actress for a very long time. I went to graduate school for classical acting. I got out of graduate school. I could not get a job in the field. I was living in New York. I was doing the actress thing. A friend of mine called. I don't know if you're familiar with the York Theater. Mm-hmm. They had an open slot, and he happened to be stage managing there, and we went to graduate school together. And he said, hey, come fill this up with me. Let's do something. They're giving us 2 weeks at the York, which is an off-Broadway house. And so I got my first real directing gig there, and I did a 2-person thing, part of like a night of 1 acts, and it got a lot of attention. And
a 2-person thing?
A 2-person, a 2-hander, a 2-person show.
Yes, two
just
people,
two actors. Yeah,
2 actors.
It's called 2-hander. Yeah. And it just got a lot of attention. It got a lot of praise, and I got a big boost of confidence. And I thought, this is the universe telling me what I should do. There's a lot of people that can act, but I think I can do this.
What do you think it was about that 2-person act that drew so much attention?
I think I made something out of a weak piece. And that's kind of become my calling card.
Wow, I'm really curious.
Yeah.
How does one take like I'm guessing you mean like a script that's
A script that's weak. If you have a performer that's not up to where you want them to be, or there's a million things that can go wrong. But I've become someone that can make it happen when it shouldn't be happening.
How do you do that? How does one take a script that's maybe mediocre or less and turn it into something people walk away from thinking like, that was a great experience?
I think you rewrite it in your head without rewriting it on the page as you're going. I think to do that, you have to be part playwright, and I am. So I'm staging what should have been written, but it's not on the page. So I'm going to find a way through staging technique, which is a big part of direction, power positions on stage, and where you put the chair, and do you even have the chair? And if she's without the chair, is she stronger there? And all of that kind of thing, and make it do the work of that should have been done by the original playwright, and I do it through acting, and I drive them. I have this reputation. I should watch my mouth, but I have a reputation for being.
You should.
For being a pretty hardcore bitch about some stuff, and because I just cannot stand it when I know they can be so, meaning the director, I couldn't be better than I was. Of course I could.
No room for improvement.
None here, folks. But the performers themselves, the design, whatever, the space itself could be so problematic, right?
Yeah,
for sure. So it is my job to take that piece of text, get to the heart of it, and find a way with all the limitations, be it performance, be it space, be it whatever, financial, whatever it is, and make it sing somehow. Wow. And that's what I do. And it's really, really hard. The doing of it isn't hard. I love the doing of it. That's liberating. What's hard is the constant grind it puts on everyone around you. The actors in the show, the people that I love that I'm working with, my friends and my family, because in that moment or in that project place, there is nothing more important to me. Bombs can be going off, and Don can attest to this.
Sure.
I cannot let it go, and I won't.
I can tell just from your personality that like, you're a go-getter. You're going to make sure it's as good as possible. I'm going to ask you, though, like, what is it about you that has the traits of a director that can make something great, turning, what's the expression, chicken shit into chicken salad?
Yeah.
How are you able to do
I mean,
that?
that's also a point, my perspective. Someone else could say, wow, I hated what she did, and I'm sure they do plenty of times. But I think it's twofold. One, the honest answer is, you have to believe, even though you're probably 99% of the time wrong, that you are the smartest person in the room. Or you cannot get the balls up. All these people, 40 people in a room just looking at you. What do we do now?
It's a real mindset.
Yeah, and so you have to be able to love that part of it and take that home. And so therefore I become responsible for the whole thing. And then in that time, there's nothing more that is more meaningful to me than taking care of these people who've put this trust in me and are allowing me to drive them, because for those 6 weeks or whatever it is, they're trusting me to put them in something that they'll be really, really proud of.
Wow.
I think.
That sounds like
that's
the
valid,
right
mindset.
Yeah.
Well, it's mine. I don't know if it's the healthiest mindset.
I think you've gotten better.
I see it like, of course, as always, I'm comparing it to my experience in the pro wrestling ring, and there's been a million times where I've been at a venue where the ceilings are too low. All the high flyers can't jump off the top rope, and you constantly, and very rarely have I seen a director, aka a promoter or a booker, solve these issues for the wrestlers. They just kind of have to figure. I've been at venues where the ceilings were so low, they hit the lights and glass everywhere.
That's probably because, Sam, that promoter, that director, whatever the name of that particular creative is in your world, doesn't base their whole sense of self in it, which I do. And it's not good. It's this thing that I'm doing right now is a representation of how lovable I am, how worthy I am, how talented I am. And then when all that's over, it's all done, and then it starts all over again, like a cycle. And it sounds kind of romantic, but it's pretty brutal at times. Would you
Yeah.
not say?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, mhm.
For sure. I think it's it's probably the most unhealthy part of the process,
Yeah.
because there is, like, sometimes in theater there's this thing called the post-mortem and stuff like that, but there's also this real sense of loss after a production because you put so much into it. Like, it's like when I was living at Moxie's house, like it'd be like midnight and it's like, I got an idea for the scene in Act 2, and like we're still talking about stuff like way after rehearsal's gone, because it's just
Yeah.
like,
You'd be like, I'd be in the shower shouting things out to you
yeah,
in
for
the
sure,
hall.
for sure.
I mean, you know, and it's very, and then that sounds funny, and it is, but it's like, I have to tell him right now or I'll lose it.
But and that
called you
also,
before.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that would probably separate the good from the great, or the ones who are living it when they're even in the shower.
I guess, but then what happens when the thing is over and no one remembers it, or someone says to you, "Oh, that was so cute," after my
Yeah.
favorite response,
Yeah.
my favorite, you know, and that you're just, it's over, and it's like these friends and this family you made, this for the short of time, is just gone.
It's just over.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's people that you know, laughed, cried, shared intimate moments with that you will never talk to again after just 6 weeks. And it's like having a full relationship in a day, you know, like, and that part of it I think is pretty difficult. And there's times, like, you know, actors are fickle creatures. They rarely have a sense of loyalty. They go after the thing that's going
Really?
to be the most.
Did you say regularly or rarely?
Regularly. They
They
regularly leave you.
Yeah,
in
they
a heartbeat.
rarely have a
They
sense
rare.
of
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
rare.
yeah.
rarely have a
That's
sense
That's what I
of
thought.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So, like, and that's, you know, that's fine. They that's their thing. They have to go after the next gig,
It's their
the
safety
next job,
net too.
you know,
They
it's-
keep themselves safe that
you
way.
know.
Mhm.
And but when you're working with someone, you're creating this family and stuff, and then all of a sudden, like, nobody picks up the phone anymore, you know, to answer like, hey, I could really use some help with this project, you know. And sometimes it's not because they're doing another gig, it's just they don't feel like it, you know. And
How about, like, when we were at our heyday, Don and I were doing 4 to 5 shows a year. That's
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And we've done over 60 shows together.
yeah, easily.
Easily,
Wow.
yeah. And there would be times where in the height of it, we would have these banger parties at my house, right? From like all the people that were in the show until some of the students that shouldn't have been there and all that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And yet we didn't. Our production schedule went way down. And guess who's not coming to the parties anymore?
The
Like,
actors.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
we used to have 60 people in my
Sure.
house, and then there was 12.
Huh.
Yeah, that's who
You
they
know,
are.
I dated a girl for several years, and she was an actress. It's kind of crazy because I was a wrestler and I loved to entertain. She would take me on auditions, and I got booked. I was on a
Yeah.
kids TV show. I was on a Ford commercial. I got all these gigs, and I saw what it was like backstage. I'll never forget it, man.
Yeah.
The way it's like, when's our next job? What are you doing? What are you doing? I mean, you guys live it, so this is. But for me, it was like really eye opening. Like, is this a good life? Like,
It's a tough life. It's like you catch a disease when you're 12 and you never really get over it, right? It's like
Right.
mono. It lives in you forever. That's what
Yeah,
it feels like sometimes.
It's when you can find. So it's difficult because so many people that I'm sure that you've known that like swore that they do theater forever. Like, how many people are still doing it? 5%?
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's called, there's a term for that in my world. It's called giving up the ghost. When someone turns, 29 to 32, and all your friends are getting married and they're having babies, and you are still having $10 in your checking account because you're an actor. And that's when the parts for those people start to become more plentiful because the ranks start thinning out because as people give up the ghost.
but there's still, you say, about X percent of people who, even if they're not making money, they're still doing it for the love of the game?
It depends what kind of theater situation you're talking about. In professional theater, no, because you're not going to be there unless you're a professional.
Right.
And local theater, community theater, of course, that's what it's
Sure.
for. But then that's a very different dynamic in those two worlds. Very, very different. People don't get that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? And this, I can kind of like answer this for myself, but I'm curious your take on it. You said that kind of like the children's theater stuff is kind of looked at as like bottom of the barrel kind of jobs. I've been to children's theaters. I've taken my kids.
What have you seen?
I've oh my God.
Not to put you on the spot.
Name everything you've seen.
Ever. Direction and set design, please.
Year by year, please.
I remember
Chronologically.
I could tell you scenes I remember, but I can't.
What do you remember?
it.
What theaters they were in? Like
It was in Florida when I went
big,
most of the
big
time.
professional glitzy theaters, or more like schools.
No, I would say in between. It was like a real theater, but like kind of like the Eagle, like small.
So probably like
small.
either really tiny SBT or maybe like a more moneyed community theater.
But
they have
for
that
me,
down there.
someone who I love working with kids, and to me it just seems like
there's
a
a
really
difference
fun
there.
venture.
It's really, there's theater with children, and that's called youth theater when kids are in the show.
Yeah, and then there's theater for children.
Correct, theater for young
I think both of those are awesome.
They are awesome.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they don't have the cachet. They don't have the clout that something like Hamilton has, right? So you're a young person coming out of school. You want to be in the hottest ticket in town. You want to go on a national tour. You don't want to be in the Hokey Pokey Puppet Show, right?
Does the Hokey Pokey Puppet Show, does that sell tickets though? Or?
Yeah, look, my
sure.
big comfy couch is like in arenas all around the world.
Yeah.
I made more money directing
Magic
School Bus Live that went to Japan than I ever have for like something.
Then what is it? Is
So
it an ego thing?
The difference is there's that. The big comfy couch, the appearances of characters and big arenas, and then there's plays. In New York, not New York, I'm sorry, in the West End right now. There's a wonderful piece of children's theater that's as celebrated and as produced as anything else called Ballet Shoes, which is based on this very famous book. But they don't do that normally here. If it's not family in New York, they're not going to just do Curious George or Stuart Little or something like that, because it won't make the money. There used to be this wonderful theater in New York called New Victory that was a Broadway theater for children's theater and only children's theater. But it didn't, I don't know even what happened to them, really.
Was that the one in Central Park? I remember
No,
going to that
no,
theater.
it was right. Yeah, it was right in the midst of
Oh.
Broadway. Yeah, but I think what's really interesting and why I love children's theater is it can be as detailed, as exquisite, as well acted, as important, as painful as any of those kinds of things as adult theater. Read children's literature. It's right there on the page. I went to a conference a few years ago about children's theater in which there was this massive presentation about why we aren't doing children's theater with pieces like Brecht. And really using tough, gritty stuff for 6-year-olds. There was this big fight, and people were talking about it. But that's really great, right? That we're grappling with that, and we want to do theater for our young people that will make them be actors, performers, directors, designers, and more importantly, our audiences, and make them have a love for this now, not when we get them when they're 25.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of movies. A movie like Never-Ending Story. Like that moved me,
Right.
still to this day, more than 99% of the movies I watch.
I think there's a lot of things that are now like dumbed down for kids. The fairy tales, fables, like some of those like deep hitting, even like Charlotte's Web.
And
Like,
too fast paced, just like constant fast paced.
we get stuff that has like substance to it, where kids can learn how to grapple with hard issues and like strong emotions.
And how about not protecting them from everything? We're in a culture right now, and I don't want to bring everything up, but that we have to be very, very careful with them, and we're not allowed to make them uncomfortable or afraid. And life is uncomfortable, and it's really scary. So why not learn how to be together in it in a theater versus alone?
On your own.
I
yeah.
might be wrong about this, but I'm the opposite of that. I'm not wrong about that. I am the opposite of
Mm-hmm.
that. I put my kids in situations that they're not ready for,
Mm-hmm.
not comfortable with, and by the time they're done, they're proud of themselves. And
Right.
I'm proud of them.
Sure.
I don't think that the majority of parents want the nerfed version of these stories. I just feel like maybe the ones who do want that are the loudest on the internet, giving this
Maybe.
interpretation to people that like, oh, we can't tackle this issue. We can't.
And I don't think a lot of it's presented as options for you to see. I mean, what 3 plays in Philly that are dealing with hard issues for kids or whatever it is, just a good piece of theater for anyone that young people can go to. Do you know 3 of those names right now? I don't, and I'm a professional because they're not there.
Yeah.
And I just saw something. I
there
won't
was,
name
I
a
would
theater.
go.
Yeah, I saw something in a major theater a couple weeks ago in Philadelphia. 4 kids. I try to keep my hand in, so to
Oh, you
speak.
got 4 kids?
No, four children.
Oh, 4 children.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was awful. I thought it was so thrown together. I thought it wasn't done with the love, care, and intensity that any adult play would have been given. And that is the story, man.
Yeah.
That's what it always is.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times stories like that, and this is, me talking, you may disagree, but I feel like a lot of those things are boom, boom, pow, pow, entertaining for 45 minutes or an hour or whatever, and then they'll never remember it.
And that's what I call
Yeah.
the Hokey Pokey Puppet
Yeah,
Show.
yeah.
That's the Hokey Pokey Puppet Show, where it could be something.
that they'll be talking about.
Yeah,
or
remember when
thinking about.
remember when I saw that when I was 6 and I carried that with me forever. Some of the reading you do when you're 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is the reading that informs the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about like some of the theater. Like I was lucky with the school that I grew up in, the school district that I grew up in. They had a pretty strong theater program, right? So I was only maybe 2 years older than Kaylee, and I was going to see like West Side Story, and stuff that were like.
Was someone talking to you about it afterwards?
No, I wish.
Yeah,
'cause-
see, that's the second part. So
Yeah.
there's Tony dead in the street. Someone needs to talk to a 9-year-old about what
I'm
that
still
is.
traumatized. I seriously still hold some of that in because it's like.
And bravo to that production that did that
Yeah,
to you.
yeah.
Because some of those wounds are the good wounds.
Yeah.
Not
It's-
everything's trauma, you know?
Yeah. But it's it's not trauma in the way like, oh, I just saw somebody get shot on stage. It's trauma in the way that.
My mom could really
Like
die. People get
or-
really sick.
Yeah, or like I've never felt
Yeah.
that. Like I never had to deal with somebody else's loss in such a strong, visceral way.
Or even stuff that's positive. My father took me to see Close Encounters of the Third. I was a little girl, and we were sitting there, and I was sobbing at the end. I must have been, I don't even remember, 7, 8, something like that. And he was like, "What's wrong? What should I not have taken you to see this?" I'm like, I couldn't express myself, but it was so big. The world was so big, and I just wanted to wrap my arms around it, and it was an overwhelming thing, and I couldn't put into words at that age. But that's wonderful. And then he took me to see The Exorcist, and I still have haven't forgotten it.
It's a different, different thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's good, man. It's good that you were being exposed to these these different arts, these different things that deal with sometimes serious issues, or just wild, crazy madness.
Yeah,
Or
just something like, and that you're gonna maybe at the end of it, it's about I'm a person that can handle and navigate the world because I have people around me that love me and believe in me, and isn't that what it's all about, really? You know?
Is there a play or some piece of theater that was like a touchstone for you?
Yeah. You mean way back?
Yeah.
I saw my family. I was very fortunate, and they would take me like to New York theater trips and stuff. They knew I loved this, and they had the opportunity, the means to do it. So I must have been 12, and they took me to see Amadeus with Ian McKellen and Tim Curry
my God.
and we were in the 8th row. I mean Gandalf, and it was about the nature of mediocrity in art and how that is so painful to love something so much and not be able to do it as well as someone who doesn't even care. Right? That's what Amadeus is really about. The love of art. That's what Ama means. Amadeus is the love of God. And when you amateur theater, and when you're an amateur, that means you do it for the love of it. Ama, for the love of it. Not for the money, not for the fame. Amateur.
Dude,
that's what that means.
Not to get off track, Amadeus, isn't that, we were talking about The Watchmen earlier, isn't that the name of the character who, I don't want to do any spoilers, but the big reveal at the end, who it was? Wasn't his name Amadeus?
No.
Oh, man, I feel bad getting off track
It's
here.
okay.
But we were talking, when I start thinking about you ever read The Watchmen?
Is that Neil Gaiman?
No.
No, that is
Alan Moore.
Alan Moore. Yeah, it's really good.
I don't know it.
It's fantastic.
And I like graphic novels a lot.
Do you? Oh my God! If you
Yeah.
love graphic novels, Watchmen is like.
Have
the
you read
pinnacle.
Mouse?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
Mouse
love
is my
it. I'm
favorite.
Jewish. And
Me
like,
too.
Hey,
Hey,
do you know it?
do you know it? And it just rubbed off on him.
Yeah.
Eat a matzo ball or two.
Yeah,
I
man,
still
we're
have
like
yet
the
to have a
Monero.
matzo ball.
So when
Brother, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'll make you a matzo pizza. It'll blow your mind. Blow your mind.
I look forward to that day.
L'chaim.
But with Amadeus, as you
Yes,
were
yeah.
asking, it was over my head. I was young, and but I knew that this was something that I couldn't put it into words, like what it meant to me. And I was like sobbing in the hotel afterwards. My dad was all mad because we couldn't go to dinner because I was so upset. But I wasn't upset. I was just, my life shifted on its axis that day. And it never went back.
Yeah.
Ozymandias.
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 All right, I stand corrected.
That's what is that? Is that Greek? Ozymandias?
There's so many layers to this story. I don't know. So you were 12. You said when that you started going to the theater with your family. When did you fall in love with theater? Like, what happened?
Like when it first started? I think my mother took me, she said, there's a little play in the summer, and you need to do something in the summer. You can't hang out in the house, right? And I must have been 7 or 8. And she's like, do you want to be in the summer play? And I'm like, okay. I didn't even know what it was. And they took me in there, and I sang, and they gave me a little part, and that was it.
You loved it.
But love wasn't even the right word.
Passion.
It was drawn like a to the flame. What's that? Like a moth to the flame. Moth to the flame.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like I could not stop loving it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you, in your current life, are you performing? Or
I'm a director and a playwright. I have a full-time job at Camden County College. I'm trying to take a few steps back from directing and regroup a little bit. I'm in the midst of a new script. How are you liking it?
Can we talk about that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Whoa. She's looking at you with daggers. You better say something sweet.
Well, because he won't read it.
God dang it, Don. I've been
right.
trying to get him to read my script.
Really?
No.
No,
But
you
if I
read
did, he wouldn't read it, I'm sure.
would read
But
it,
here's the
no.
thing: reading scripts of your friends sucks. Because what if
Does
you hate?
it?
Oh my God! If you hate it, you're gonna.
But you
hurt
said
their
that you guys
feelings.
have this
And that's
relationship.
why
We
he has
do.
some
And
stuff to
it's-
say. I'm sure.
No, I haven't had a chance to read it because she sent it at like 10 o'clock last night.
That's
And-
Don's a
Time.
busy man.
Yeah.
I will attest to that. What is the writing process like for you? And how many, just to give a general idea of how many have you written?
I have 3 published scripts right now. I won a fellowship. I won the Pennsylvania Fellowship for Excellence in Playwriting and the New Jersey Fellowship for Excellence in Playwriting for my adaptation of Snow White, which really put me in my first house. And I'm very,
Whoa.
very, yeah.
What do you mean by your adaptation?
An adaptation is when you have a source material, like the fairy tale or something like that, and then you rewrite it it's the same story, but from a different perspective.
Did you like turn it on its head, or you just?
I made the whole thing from the witch's perspective.
Cool.
And it got a lot. Again, I was very, very fortunate. It got a lot of play, and it was recently done in Dubai.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's a nice passive income stream. I'll say that, and it's also. Once in a while, I'll get invited to one of these productions of it. And sometimes kids do it, and sometimes adults do it. And just to see your own heart up there, it's really quite something. Yeah. I think that's some of the best writing I've ever done. It's the most honest writing. It's like I'm all over the page. My relationship with my mother is everything I write is about my mother.
What's the title of this specific?
Snow
Snow White, and because that sells, But it's done a lot. And Jack and the Beanstalk, I was hired by the Ithaca Theater in New York to write an adaptation for them of Jack and the Beanstalk when the main character's deaf and uses ASL. Sign language.
Wow.
So yeah, it was very cool. So that's out there to be produced. Doesn't get done quite as much because the ASL is so challenging. And recently, I've done a lot of other adaptations, but those have been the most lucrative for me. And I'm writing a new piece that's horror, and I've never done it before.
Well,
yeah,
if you want someone to read your script,
I would love it.
I just so happen to be a wizard when it comes to horror.
Well, I'll tell you, I could use a wizard because horror on the stage is really tough.
I was thinking that as soon as you said it, I was like,
Yeah.
how could you, I don't know if this is your aim, but make it legit scary.
It's hard because you have to do it. You don't have the help of the camera. Where the
Right in
director
the
guides
face.
your eye to where the jump shot is coming or where they want you to look with the camera.
Are you going for jump scares? Or are you going for
no,
creepy?
It's more of a slow burn. And Don knows me, and he would know. I don't work like that, but it's pretty violent, and it's pretty bloody, and it's pretty like people like dropping from the ceiling and like stuff like that. Yeah, and it's. Do you know the term? And we haven't even talked about that. Do you know the term? You're an artist. We did talk about this. Yeah, pentimento. Do you know that word? Pentimento means like when it's a painting, like an oil painting, and the canvas has been used for another painting previously. So there's an image that comes through the new image. So it's almost like something's behind it. That's called pentimento. It's an art term.
Okay.
So I'm basing my whole piece on that, about this piece of land where something terrible happened. And like in time, you can kind of see the past like shining through. I don't know how to explain it better than that without you reading it.
I think I'm
so it's in 3 sections. The first takes place in the 50s. The next takes place in the 70s, and then the 90s, and then this big ending. But so you can see some of these characters and how they've influenced the environment and the horror of it in a kind of metaphysical kind of way. And that means nothing to you, I'm sure.
And this is your first horror.
Yeah.
What does the writing process look like for you?
I've watched a lot of true crime. I love true crime, and I'm spacing some little bits out of characters that I've pulled from true crime.
Cool.
Do you know that? Do you watch true crime at all?
I just watched Dr. Death. I don't know if that counts. but
Is that the one? What's that one? Probably. I've
that's the
seen it.
one where the dude is doing a lot of crazy stuff and patients are dying. And it's based off
that's
truth.
not the nurse that killed all those people, right? The male nurse, Charlie Cullen.
No, but I probably saw that one
That was
too.
great. Anyway, but I'll pull like interesting characterizations and try to put them in this. And I'm basing a lot of it on a case of Irish immigrants in the Midwest that were treated abominably when they first came over in the 1800s, and that's kind of where I'm sitting it.
Wow.
Yeah. We'll see.
How much research do you have to do for a piece like this?
Well, someone once said to me, I asked a costumer once, I think it was this, how they did their research. They're like, well, I watched an episode of the Flintstones that took place like in Paris, and that's where I got it. And that's kind of what it's like sometimes.
Bonnie.
Yeah.
Oh, write that down. That's good.
So just silly things. But and you look, if you're doing Titanic, I guess everything has to be, perfect. But for me, I do some research, and then I try to sometimes fit my research into my idea, which is not always the best thing either, I guess. But I'm hopeful for this. It's going to take a lot of money. I'm going to need some financing, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see it.
Oh, I'll be happy to send you the first section.
Ooh, all right. Excuse me, I gotta go potty.
Oh.
You guys gonna be okay?
Yeah, I think
you guys
we'll be all right.
You hold it down.
Yeah, we've
You're gonna feel comfortable with this guy?
Yeah,
All
he might
right.
kill me out here.
I wish you luck. I wish you both luck.
Okay.
It's cool. Everything's happening in real time right now.
Hi.
So, hi. We're just gonna be like another 10 minutes of silence.
Should we wait for him? Or
No,
do we,
no, we'll talk.
Let's talk about. Can I say
Okay.
something?
Yeah, sure.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about
Whatever you want to talk about.
your favorite piece, I don't know if this is good or not, but your favorite piece that we did together and your least favorite piece that we did together and why. I'll go first. I think my favorite piece, in favorite meaning that was really realized in a way that we weren't just redoing another version of something. I think it was Pillow Man for me.
Yeah, Pillow Man's definitely in my top 3. I think it's probably Pillow Man, Picasso, and I don't know, 39 Steps is kind of up there.
Yeah,
too.
that was tough, man.
Or How I Learned to Drive.
Oh, that was, yeah. We did a lot of good work together.
Yeah. I think the ones that I liked the least, I don't know, because it's different, because there's things that I didn't like as much because of just where I was in my head
right.
at that time.
Yeah.
Like I think Ruckus 2 is probably there.
Yeah, that was late.
You know,
that was after us. I don't even consider that like us.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the stuff is then. It's like after I left the college full time.
Right.
So
I think we found our groove in what we really did well together, which was what we didn't do well, in my opinion, was pieces that we had no real business doing. I had no business directing Little Women. I had no business doing other large scale, like City of Angels.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
That was really, that we didn't have the money, we didn't have the casting, and we didn't have the love of the piece.
Yeah.
It wasn't our genre.
Yeah.
We like the guts of it. You know, that's who we are in that stuff.
I think the Shakespeare's we did were pretty
good. The first one was better.
Yeah.
As You Like It was
for
better.
Sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Much better.
We killed ourselves over that.
Yeah. But it was.
It was probably. Yeah. It was enormous.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's really, you do stuff because you think it's the right decision at the time.
Yeah.
And
we did those things. We did Little Women for audiences. We said we have to do a musical, and the truth is we didn't.
Right. It just didn't matter.
Right.
I mean,
it didn't.
I think when we went from the big stage to the black box was when we really hit our stride.
We hit it. I never wanted to leave.
From Spelling Bee on.
Well, Spelling Bee was great.
Spelling Bee was great.
Avenue Q was great.
Avenue Q was great.
I mean, like, we had like a run of 12 to 15 shows that were just great, and that's me saying it.
Yeah. I mean, we also, there was also a huge support system from, the college was very supportive of us.
They were supportive in leaving us alone.
Well, that's really important, though.
They just
that was really important. It's like,
They were like, let them do what they want.
Yeah. Just pay it out of the dividend. We were just talking about Sam's back. Everybody, hi Sam.
Do you guys miss me?
Yeah,
very much.
Did it all fall apart?
No,
we put it
we were
together.
talking a little bit about past shows and
because I'm looking at a list here. I'm like, how am I gonna?
Is
bring
that
this
my
up?
bio?
This is a bio and a half. Her own adaptation of Summer of My German Soldier.
That was my first adaptation ever. I got a Moss Hart nom for that.
A Moss Hart.
It's a Children's Theater Award. Moss Hart was a famous playwright back in the 1930s.
Yeah. Okay. Best Children Production of 1999. Was awarded both the 2002 Pennsylvania Council on the Arts Fellowship Award and the 2003 New Jersey Council on the... This is very long-winded.
Yeah.
She won a lot of awards, ladies and gentlemen.
And here she is, sitting next to Donald Spence.
Yeah, I know. How the mighty have fallen.
Ain't it the truth?
So what made you decide to... I don't know where you guys were.
We were just talking about past productions.
And this is
stuff,
interesting because I think this is something that could be interesting for you. We did a big production of Shakespeare called As You Like It. And
wait.
The Shakespeare As You Like It, the comedy.
He wrote one. I've never heard of that one.
Yeah. It's not a lesser known comedy. It's not like Much Ado or anything.
No,
but
I think it's one of his better comedies.
Okay.
One of my
I have
favorites.
a friend, a very good friend, who's a specialist. He writes books about Shakespeare.
Oh,
He's
wow.
like known as the top of the top. I
Oh.
would love for him to hear this conversation right now.
Well, maybe he will.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah.
So we did a production of As You Like It. And I decided to set it in the 1960s because it had that kind of flavor, that kind of running away from society, running away from being a part of a cog in a machine, that kind of 1960s,
yeah.
like Fight the Man
So
kind of
you
feeling.
took his play and made it happen.
I just said it in the 1960s. Same text, same dialogue.
Yeah, because it goes from like the court, very courtly behavior to this forest area, and that's really how
And then,
the two
yes.
worlds are like.
And at court, everything's very Mad Men.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that kind of Don Draper look with the dresses but in the Forest of Arden, we're all hippies.
What was the reaction?
Oh,
from
I
the
think
audience?
it helped them a lot
Yeah.
understand the plot of the play, which is why I did it.
Did you have any hardcores that were like, "No, you
Yeah.
don't do this to Shakespeare"?
Yeah.
Because
There
that would be
always
my
is.
friend.
I'd love to talk to him about it and tell him why I did it.
Yeah.
And then he can tell me why I'm wrong.
Okay.
And then we-
yeah. I would
you have
love to see
conversations.
that conversation.
Well, those are great conversations to
Yeah.
have, because those are the things that get you to see a different point of view. It's just you have to be open to hearing it.
Because I think a true academic would say, why are you doing that? This is what it is, and this is what it should remain, and it's pure in that form. I'm not an academic. My job is to tell a story in the most relatable, engaging way to an audience. And that's often with Shakespeare, not in Doublet and Hose.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we added all this music from the 1960s that they sang. So I turned it like into this musical. And we didn't decide to do that till rehearsal started.
That's
For
crazy.
sure.
Yeah. So,
sure.
What?
Yeah.
How does that?
Because I was sitting around and they were all reading the show to me, like at a read through, early days. And I was like, wait, Melissa really sings, and he sings, and he sings, and we could do this.
And you just wrote songs?
No.
No, no.
Oh, no, my
No.
God, no.
No, we used songs from that time period and we wove them into the script. Like
So it would help the audience understand what that character's actually saying and feeling at that time.
Wow.
So, Buttercup, what's the Buttercup song? We didn't end
Build
up
Me Up
using
Buttercup.
Build Me Up Buttercup.
Sure. Build me up.
Yeah,
Buttercup, baby.
right. Sonny and Cher. I Love You, Babe. Dun, dun, dun,
Wait,
dun.
so are you saying you just
we did.
put-
We put all these songs into the show in moments where it would highlight what
clips
was happening.
of it, not like the whole song really in areas.
But it was
like-
big numbers.
Yeah,
They're big
numbers.
numbers.
Yeah.
Like at least 15 songs.
Yeah, like the whole prologue was so. There's a whole bunch of events that happen before the action of the
Like
the
any
play
play,
starts,
right? Like any play, stuff happens prior that you don't know about.
Yeah, there's like Dad's dying, and the sons are taking over,
And the Duke is
stuff.
being banished to
Yeah.
all that Shakespearean kind of
Right.
crap.
So we did it as like flash photography of like these moments that were happening in these people's lives that told the story before the story, and we did it to Hazy Shade of Winter.
All right.
It was
really cool.
pretty cool.
It was very cool.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work. There was puppets in it. You and I had the biggest fight about those
Thought a
puppets.
lot about these. There were lamb puppets that would dance.
Well,
I
wait a
was
second. He
Don-
doesn't. So here's the thing. There's a
You got a
character.
problem with puppets, dude? You got a fucking problem with puppets?
Hey,
I love
this is what I had to deal with, Sam. This is what I'm dealing with.
Oh my God!
No,
bless
no.
your
This
heart.
actually gets to a very good point. Is
Well, but
that
let him understand the what.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
So there's a character in As You Like It. She's a shepherdess in the Shakespeare. Right out in the Forest of Arden. Sure. So she had all these lambs, right? But that's not going to work in the 1960s. So we had to switch her around a bit. So she was a shepherdess, but we had to give her a little punch. So I said, we got to make these lambs into something. I want you to make me some lamb puppets, and they can dance with her while she's singing. It'll be
course.
adorable.
Yeah,
He's
of
like, you don't
course.
want to do that. I'm
Wait,
like,
what?
Exactly.
Stop looking at me like this. It's a podcast. Nobody can see you.
Yeah, but they're all looking at the radios like I'm looking at you.
Why
It's
would he
just
want puppets? Why
judgy
would he
stares.
deny her puppets?
So I think it becomes more about there's this thing that Moxie and I have done on every production is where I challenge her to be certain that that's what she wants.
He forces me to defend my decisions, and that's why he's my favorite.
Like making sure it's 100%.
He's like, why? Yeah, because he knows how important it is to me, and he knows that just like I can get an idea in the bathtub at 2 a.m. where all my thinking happens, but he didn't want me to feel tied to it if I changed my mind.
Right.
And that's money to spend, you know?
So all that matters is that it's 100% to her. It doesn't have to be 100% with you.
It matters to me.
No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, of course.
I am just either the devil's advocate or whatever, but I'm like, look, we're going to take this into a direction, and if your gut's not 100% on board that this is going to work, then we're going to waste a lot of time and we're going to waste a lot of money on trying something that is just
that would be a big time suck.
Very, and he's the one. It's not like he has a staff of 12 people.
Yeah.
It's not like that. He's the one at 2 a.m. making those puppets.
I mean, let's be real. Don is 12 people.
That's very true. I mean that in all humor, that's true.
Wait, what did you say?
I said I should go on a diet.
You said that's not how I meant it. You're beautiful,
but
Don.
he did. We had some fights about it. And I was like, why are you giving me so much pushback? You know this is going to be so theatrically charming. Why are you doing this? And he'd say, I want you to be sure. We've worked so hard. It's this close to being so good.
Yeah. And like there was like I was also performing in this thing
he was.
too.
And remember the chicken puppet?
I had a chicken. So
it's all coming back to me.
So like we actually, because the world was so real, it wasn't necessarily about making these puppets ourselves as much as we adapted stuffed animals that were fairly realistic looking so that it would fit into the same world.
Yeah, they were expensive.
So like I had to shove my hand up the sweaty chicken ass and so that it could turn its head.
Every character in As You Like It practically has a romantic love interest. It's all about love.
Yeah.
Right? And his character didn't, and he needed one, and he played this like old farmer. So I gave him a chicken, and the audience just ate it up.
Yeah.
They loved you in that chicken. Yeah. That was a good call on my part.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm just.
But he was right, and we do
process,
that constantly.
You know?
And if it's not him questioning me, it's me questioning him.
Yeah, it's like
remember the
how
I learned to drive.
Well, yeah,
pinup girls.
So here's where we are. We are Wednesday night of Tech Week. We open in 2 days. Everyone, you must find this interesting. To send emails to Sam Seitels.
What were we talking about?
So Wednesday of Tech, we open on Friday. We're looking at this wall, and originally it's this big blue sky going on up there, and there's these lampposts that are set up out on the stage, but
it's supposed to look like truly the horizon line, like a true sky.
No, I'm seeing it.
But,
I'm seeing it.
You know, you have partially flats that are beat. Come on, Moxie.
You are just clumsy with that microphone.
So you partially get like your students building some of these flats and stuff.
Blame
and
it
not
on the
everything
students.
is like sometimes you have a lame duck technical director who doesn't know how to build a flat, and that's me. And
so we looked at it.
All
the flats were up.
And it's you're seeing the seams.
It was so bad.
I
almost cried. Yeah.
So
did I cry?
What was so bad
about
about
it? Well, skies don't have seams.
Oh,
and it looked ugly.
Scientifically,
it looked ugly. It didn't look good.
Yeah,
it was really ugly.
So I sat there probably for 45 minutes or so.
You were pissed at everything, mostly.
Pissed at everything because it was Wednesday
and
night.
He knew. Yeah, and he knew.
I know.
He knew
what
we were right.
Night.
Right.
Yeah.
I see him every Wednesday.
So we there's this line about this pinup artist Alberto Vargas.
In the play, which is about sexual exploitation.
Right. And it was at that point I was like, well, what if we made it about that? So I wound up painting the next day 16 Vargas girls on flats, as well as one giant one on the floor that was the color of like grass and sand. So it looked like you couldn't tell that it was like
There was all this
Yeah.
driving.
You
That's
did
why.
all this in a night.
I did it
24
during
hours?
Yeah, I did it during your class period the next
Well,
day.
you stayed up all night, I'm sure
Yeah,
you did.
yeah.
And that was
Okay.
typical for us. Typical.
Yeah.
And I think that was both our strength and our weakness.
Sure.
That you and I hated it, but we loved creating on the fly. We
Yeah.
loved it. Loved to hate it. And there's
It was
nothing
good.
more exciting. You can defend, but there's nothing more
I'm
exciting
not-
than 3 a.m. on Wednesday, and you know the set isn't working or something's wrong. And we look at each other because we trust each other more than
Sure.
anyone in this shit. And we go,
Sure.
we're going to rip this motherfucker apart.
Yeah.
And we're going to make it what it should be. And no
Right.
matter what it takes.
Always. It was
Always.
always. And the anger comes out of like, why didn't I see this 3 weeks ago?
Right. Why didn't
You
we
know,
talk about
why-
that then?
Yeah. So that's really what it is. So like those things come up. Like there was this this mechanism in Picasso that didn't work, so we redesigned that as like a clock feature, and that wound up
Yeah.
working way better.
Yeah,
you
that
know,
was.
and it's
We're
like
really
little
good at
things like
that. I mean, we shouldn't need to be good at that, but because we should be better to know what we need. But
you know, you're also
Guys, can I feel like anyone listening now is thinking like these two clearly have like a history on that theater that is worth talking about. I'm wondering, like, out of all the things you've done together, which is clearly a lot of things, I did not know that coming into this podcast. I want to know the best of the best. Like,
It's
what are
funny.
the things?
when you
just
went to the
thought-
bathroom, that's just what we were talking about.
Fuck, I missed
Yeah. No,
it.
we can do it again.
no, they already heard it.
no, I think like what we were saying is probably at the top of our list is this play called The Pillow Man, and Martin McDonough,
Yeah.
and some of them
Scary. Talk about scary.
really scary.
Really scary.
I've never been to a theater and been scared. I would love
You
that
would
experience.
you would be.
We can send him
Yeah.
some pictures from it.
Sure.
I
Yeah,
might
yeah.
actually have the DVD at home.
Oh, do you?
I think I have all of them.
It's about a writer who lives in a totalitarian state, and he writes about children, short stories about little children being murdered in terrible, terrible ways. And then in this place where he lives, there starts to be this rash of child murders. So he's brought in, and he's practically tortured, and his
brought in as an investigator.
no, brought in as to be interrogated as
Yeah,
possibly someone
because
who's
of
doing
the one who
suspect.
wrote it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's about the nature of art and reality and that kind of thing. Don played his mentally disturbed younger brother.
Michael, yeah.
Yeah. And all these stories are acted out. And then the children begin being killed this way. So it's really rough.
Holy
But
cow.
it's
Yeah.
it's gorgeous.
Hey, how
beautiful.
is Don on that stage?
He was wonderful.
Yeah, Don's good on the stage.
It was a perfect part for you.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was a good
I
one
think
for me.
I'm really great at casting Don. Don trusts me when I cast him,
Mm-hmm.
right? I knew he'd be perfect, and he was perfect in As You Like It.
Yeah.
And I try not to when I feel it's just because I'm at a loss to who to get, you know?
Yeah.
I've seen this guy behind the scenes.
You've
for the
never
last
seen him on
5
stage?
years. I've never seen him.
He's so
other
funny.
than this podcast, I've never seen him.
You've never heard him sing? Don's a strong singer. He was in Spelling Bee, the big song in Spelling Bee.
Don.
Yeah, seriously.
This is, some people think that I do this podcast to meet the guests. It's really getting to know Don.
Well, I mean, that's
the layers. There's so
yeah.
many.
It's like he's an onion. What's there like Shrek? You're an
Yeah.
onion.
Yeah, but there is a lot to talk about you, and we're running short on time.
Oh.
So let's talk about what are you looking forward to in the future? Like, do you want to go back to kids? Do you want to do the hard thing?
I think I want to take a step back from directing for a little bit because I think it's become just getting it up versus the art of it for me now. And so unless
wait, what do you mean by that?
by just making it happen versus doing it the way I'm capable of doing it. And often
Okay.
I'm not.
It's feeling like a job.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
very much so. So I'm just stepping out for a little bit. I obviously, as we talked about, I'm writing more, and Don and I are now working a little bit on a new project, and we're going to see how it goes.
How
I
many
have a
freaking things do you do at the same time? It's ridiculous.
a lot. He's a Renaissance man. I have an
Unreal.
idea for an app about theater that I'm hoping might have some legs. So
Oh.
yeah,
Yeah. We'll talk about it when it's
when it's something.
something.
Yeah, a little closer or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. And for anyone who wants to see
Charlotte's Web is a student production I'm doing right now. I'm sure it'll be absolutely adorable. Great thing for kids. Very respectful of kids. None of my stuff is the Hokey Pokey Puppet Show, as Don can well attest. This has animations running in the background of the show. So when you're in the Zuckerman's barn, you see some birds fly across the stage and stuff like that. It's really beautiful. It opens April 7th and runs through the 13th.
Okay. And what about a guy like me who I'm going to be transparent right now. You seem brilliant with what you do. I know, and of course you're going to say that because you want to grow. Listen, if you ever need a dude.
I need dudes all the time.
Who could, I don't know.
I don't know where this is going.
Wait, let me finish my sentence before things get crazy. Don's looking defensive over there. Or embarrassed, I can't tell. So no, seriously.
We'll see where you go with this sentence.
All right. I better choose my words carefully. All right, here we go. I love performing, and you've never seen me, but Don has seen me perform many times. I put on a good show. I don't know if I ever have the time to do what your actors do, but gosh, I'm going to throw this out into the universe. If there's ever a show that I have the time for and you want someone like me, I would love to work with you guys.
You know what you'd be great in?
What?
Have you read Stereophonic yet?
I haven't.
He would be great in Stereophonic.
Please.
Stereophonic
elaborate.
is about the making of Fleetwood Mac's Rumors album when all that was going on, like between Stevie Nicks and all this.
That was my first album I ever had.
It was
as a
just
kid.
on Broadway. Just
I
left
really
Broadway
wanted to
about
see
6
that.
months ago, and it takes place in the studio with the techies and the singers and all the bullshit that goes on with all of them, and you have the exact right vibe for something like that. It's called Stereophonic.
See, I was thinking something action and great, but hearing that really is.
That's not who. Well, I mean, in terms of real, and that's what you
You're
do.
the pro.
Well,
You're
but
the pro.
who, like your personality, what I'm seeing from you, just knowing you for 3 minutes.
It's been
That's
an
what
hour.
It is. Oh, that's why I can get in.
And can I say a fantastic hour?
The longest audition ever.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a lovely time.
Yo, you bring some superb energy.
Oh, well, thank you.
I can see why you and Don have been. Hey, wait. We can't end this podcast. We've talked about your greatest. Let's talk about your worst. Did you guys ever really go at it where you're like, I might never talk to her again?
No, I don't think we did that, but we did some crap shows.
Yeah.
City of Angels is my personal worst.
Yeah.
How many times is it with something like that? So if I have a bad match, it's over. Is it something where you do one show and you're like, shit, we have 12 more of these?
Yeah. And then we usually, after we know it's up and it can run, no matter how terrible it is, we'll sit, we won't watch it together. We'll just sit in the lobby and we'll like watch, we were watching Anchorman, like all through, and we would just like, get that show up. And then we're like on our phones watching
You'd be
Anchorman.
watching Anchorman.
Because we just wanted it to be over.
That's painful.
Yeah.
Well, that stuff like that. That's our fault. For just
bad choices.
Yeah, just making a bad choice.
When it's ever it sucks, it's our fault.
Yeah, it's something like City of Angels. We tried to break that open, and it's just a piece that shouldn't be broken.
And
open.
that was my fault, totally. Because I thought as a director I could make it more my own by breaking it open, and breaking it open meaning going against the grain for how it was meant to be produced with the set it's meant to use. I want just like taking As You Like It in the '60s. I broke the set open of this, and that was a big mistake, and it led us down a really bad path, and we could never come back from it.
Yeah.
And
what percentage in the big picture? What percentage of projects you've worked on would you say were happy all the way to were ecstatic, versus 49 and lower, like it was to all the way like it was shit? What would you say?
I think it's a pretty small percentage of what is garbage.
I'd say 90% we love.
Yeah,
90%.
Yeah.
Well, we should have loved, even if we couldn't in the moment.
Right.
I mean, there's certain
Right.
things so once a performance like goes up in front of an audience, like it's kind of hard. Like you know, there's some people who just sit and watch the show every night, from the audience, but you've already sat with it for months longer than the people who are even on stage.
I don't remember the last time I sat through one of my own shows.
Yeah.
I can't watch them.
Yeah.
Ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Ever.
You don't sit there and
still
critique and figure out how to be
she's
better?
still directing. Like,
Yeah. No, and I try, by the time it opens, my notes need to stop.
yeah.
Unless
yeah.
something's so wrong.
But
up
don't
there.
you have to see how the audience reacts?
Oh, I can hear it.
Yeah. You listen for there's the first laugh. Okay,
He
it's gonna
came,
be fine.
or sometimes he and I have memories of us pressing our ears up against the door of the theater just to see what the
vibe
is,
yeah,
and yet
yeah.
we easily could have gone in, but we just won't. Can't do
It's
it.
so
It's
great.
hard.
I think that's one of the coolest parts, that you guys can put together something that you have no idea how people are going to react. You want them to react a certain way.
Sure.
And
That's the magic, you know.
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
That's the magic, right? And then boom, we
Boom,
did it.
and then
or-
we'll see where
Yeah.
this is the art we made. How was it?
Yeah.
You know, which is a sad thing in this country, because in a lot of other countries, art is state funded, so you can work on a project for a year.
Yeah.
We get 6 weeks if we're lucky.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know other countries did that.
They
for
state
their-
fund their arts, so they grow and develop, and as anything should have, right? You can't make art in 6 weeks. Can you make an album in 6 weeks? I guess you could, but
6 weeks is rough.
it's rough. But you want time, and you want
Yeah.
your community to give you that time to, and we don't do that in this country, which is a shame.
Yeah.
We're just
Well,
not that way.
What do you think? 10 weeks might be at least fair?
I think I'd like to work on 3 things and have someone say to me, in 18 months, I want to see a first act of any of these things you're
Holy
working
shit,
on.
18 months.
I'd love it. I could rewrite. We could bring in other actors. We could change the whole thing around.
perfect.
It would just be a life in art, you know, and that's great. But
Yeah.
that's very unlikely, you know, very, very unlikely.
Hey, before we turn this bad boy off, is there anything I need to know about Don? I don't know how much you know about the art club,
A little bit.
but this guy's the king of the art club.
So I hear.
And it was over 5 years ago, COVID-esque time. He was right by this shed and said, hey, maybe we'll need a host for something.
And isn't that his brilliance at putting people together, not
Yes.
worrying about the peripherals of the money and the stuff and if it's going to work, but putting people together.
Honestly, you said it perfectly, and I'm just going to elaborate on that by saying, when I think of art and what art should be, art is Don. Don lives art and how it should be.
Renaissance man. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now compliment us.
Yeah.
And that must be on the level. No.
I
dude.
make some really good cookies. You've eaten a lot of my baking. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And sometimes I give you a hug.
Come on.
No, it's it's hard to listen to
He hates that.
things.
He
I
hates
really
that.
do.
He's an artist. He doesn't
I
want to
really
hear how
do.
good he is.
I treasure the people that are in my life, and how fortunate I am to be surrounded with so many amazingly creative people. And even for people who didn't think of themselves as artists when I first met them.
We're thought too highly of themselves as artists.
I was on the first part of that.
I was on the second.
It's like a Reese's peanut butter cup. That was one of the reasons why we started this podcast to begin with, was because for someone to just believe that they can make something, that it's not so far removed from them, like that's the special thing about this. There's something that's just brilliant about everybody, and when you ignite that part of somebody that feels like they're at their best, like that's really special.
Can I say something to that? And because I know we have to end this, but
We really don't. We can do whatever the hell we want. So
I've directed so much, and I've worked so many times at different kinds of plays, but I've always I thought it was for the longest time about the art I brought to something and what people would take away of it, they would think of me in doing it, all that kind of stuff that I can very well admit to. But what I've learned very recently, I've been through a horrible year, and I've had some real family changes, and in that, my most recent piece I directed called "Search for Signs of Intelligent Life in the Universe," which is a one-woman show that I did with a dear friend. She was brilliant in it, and for the first time, art buoyed me through that. It was a beautiful experience. I didn't have one bad day in that rehearsal process, and it came at the worst time of my entire life. And for the first time, art really felt like it took care of me versus me taking care of it. And I don't think I've ever experienced that before. Maybe I've never allowed that to happen before because I have to make it happen, right?
Sure.
But the piece came out so beautifully, and maybe that's because I didn't have to muscle it so much. I don't know, you know, but that was a really new thing.
Wow.
Really new.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That seems, wow. That seems like a good place to end it. That was beautiful. Anything you want to promote? Anything you want to say?
I'd like to promote Art Club. I'd like to promote this podcast. I'd like to promote you two. Thank you both for doing something hard and good to do. Thank you.
You were fun. You're so
Thanks,
much fun.
Moxie. Thanks, everybody.
Later,
Thank you.
peeps.
Bye, everyone.